Welcome to the Art of Being Happy, Buddha's Guide to Modern Living from Jethavanarama Buddhist Monastery, Sri Lanka. This intriguing talk series brings timeless Buddhist wisdom to help you navigate life's challenges through simple, practical insights. Each episode offers gentle guidance for finding peace and joy in everyday moments. Join us on this journey toward lasting happiness and inner peace. Brought to you by Sanathana, the voice eternal.
Think about the last time you were happy. You were really happy. You might have had maybe a visitor, a friend from school, maybe a long lost friend or someone who you hadn't seen for a while. Perhaps maybe it was your birthday recently and you got given a gift and that made you really happy. Maybe someone announced, perhaps your daughter announced that she was pregnant and now you're going to become a grandmother or a grandfather. Perhaps that made you happy. Or maybe, just maybe, someone in the family was diagnosed with something and you thought it was terminal. But somehow they managed to get treatment and now they're healed and the reports have come back saying negative. Each of these moments were moments that you felt happy, right? In each of these moments, you experienced happiness. So was it the moment that gave you happiness then? This is a question we have to ask ourselves now. See, if there are things in life that makes you happy, shouldn't it make everybody happy? Let me take you back a few years. That Prabhakaran was killed. He is neither my friend nor my foe. I'm just giving you a story. Do you remember that day? Do you remember how this country celebrated that day? How our nation celebrated that day? There were fireworks, there were crackers, there were parties, right, all over the country. But not in every home, right? Not in every home. Wouldn't you agree that there were some homes where people were in mourning, where people thought they had lost their battle for freedom? They had lost their battle, they had lost their hero. But the vast majority of the country celebrated. See, even something so significant where the vast majority finds a thrilling moment, a joyful moment, a moment to celebrate, there are still others for whom it was an utter disappointment when they realized all hope was lost. How is it that the same event can make one happy and the other unhappy? If it is the event that makes someone happy, then one event, the same event, should make everyone happy. But that is not so, is it? Any cricket fans? It's a silly question, isn't it? Huh? In a room full of Asians, Sri Lankans, is a silly question to be asking. Cricket fans. When you watch a game of cricket? Huh? You remember the 96 World Cup? I remember watching it. I was on the edge of my seat. I remember watching it. A few balls left and we had a few more runs. We needed to win the game. A few balls later, maybe an over later, as the game came to a close, right? And they won the last run. With the last run, they won Sri Lanka won the game. In your home, there was a celebration. Yeah? But in the homes 1,000 kilometers from us, in a land called Australia, people were not celebrating. They were disappointed. So why is it that a victory doesn't make everyone happy? Now you'll have an answer, a superficial answer. You'll say it's because, Sri Lanka is our country, so we must be happy when Sri Lanka wins. The Australians would have been happy if they won. Surely, Swaminatha, that makes sense. My point is this. It is not the victory that makes one happy. It's what you want. If what happens is what you want, then you are happy. But if what happens is what you don't want, then you're unhappy. So if you are someone who has wants, I'm not talking about needs. There's a difference between the two. There's a difference between wants and needs. Needs are the things that we need to sustain ourselves, right? We need oxygen to breathe. We don't want oxygen, we need oxygen. We don't want food, we need food, right? We need clothes, we need medicines. These are the 4 requisites. We need these things. But the things that we want are things that the mind wants. Now, if you had a friend, for instance, maybe say a friend from another country who was watching the game with you on that day, he or she would have also enjoyed that moment when Sri Lanka won because he or she was your friend. And he or she wanted you to be happy, so therefore when you were happy, they were happy. Is it not clear to us then, looking back at the examples that we've discussed? So you discussed the example of the mother with the 2 children. We discussed the example of eating what you want and being happy about it. We've discussed the example of greeting someone that you've been waiting for. And we've discussed the example of, the winning team that you wanted to win, right? In each of these instances, ladies and gentlemen, where there's a wanting, there seems to be happiness. Yeah, if you want something and you get what you want, you're happy. Would you all agree with me on that? When you get what you want, you're happy. What is the risk with this? Do you not see a risk here? If you're only happy when you get what you want, what's the risk? What happens when you get what you don't want? Or when you don't get what you want, then you're disappointed. If your child fails an exam, that's not something you want, so you're unhappy. If your crush, when you ask the question, says no, if you get a rejection, you're unhappy. If you apply for, say you've applied for a visa to go to another country, or you apply for a job, and they come back to you with a rejection. So I want you to live these experiences because we've all lived long enough to have had some of these experiences in our lives. So think back to the time when it happened. Maybe you wanted to buy a property. You had your mind set on it. You had a price going for it. It was all discussed. But in the last moment, they said, sorry, you can't have it. Another buyer has come and taken it out. Never happened to you? How did you feel in that moment? Disappointed. Why? Because there was something you wanted and it didn't materialize. So don't you feel that this is like walking a tightrope? We have all put ourselves into a position where we are vulnerable. If things go to plan, if things go the way we want, we are happy. But when things don't go the way we want, we are unhappy. In other words, would you not agree then that you have allowed events that happen in and around you to decide whether you're happy or unhappy? So then who gets to decide whether you're going to be happy tomorrow? Well, we want to just start it today, so I'll ask you about today, right? Who decides whether you're going to be happy today? Can you? Can you really? Don't you feel somehow that you have no control over your happiness? Is that okay? I mean, are you all right with that? If you are, then, I haven't got much more to say. If you're happy about the fact that someone can control your happiness, if you're happy about that, if you're okay with that, then we don't have much else to talk about. I personally was not happy about that. My exam results determined whether I was going to be happy or not. The job interview determined whether I was going to be happy or not. My friends got to decide whether I was going to be happy or not. When you watch a film, when you watch a drama on TV, there are ups and downs. You go through the motions. There are happy times and there are unhappy times. They know how you work. They know how your mind operates. That's how they make money out of it. That's okay. You can't fault them for that. Because, no one's forcing you to do it. You volunteer your time, you volunteer yourselves. Do you know how you enjoy a film? Would you like me to give you an analysis of that? How it is you enjoy watching a film? Is that all right? Don't tell me I didn't warn you. Because the thing is this, right? Today I'm here because I understood the truth. So I'm about to share with you the truth. So things could happen in your life. Is that okay? I'm not saying all of you should come and live this life, but what I'm saying is I want you to be happy. You don't have to strive and struggle so hard to be happy. Let me talk you through how a film makes you happy. I used to be a film fanatic. Up until I left my lay life and went to my ordained life, I used to be hitting the box office, always looking out what was the latest movies, what's got the best reviews, right? You name it, I watched it. That's what I used to do on weekends. You go on IMDb, get the rating on which movies are the best rated. Or there used to be another one, Rotten Tomatoes. Any of you tried that? They give you ratings on the best movies. So now you got something from the sermon today. They give you a rotten factor. So it tells you what the best movies are. Take it down, Rotten Tomato. We should all get something from a sermon, right? I'm just jesting. So I used to be a film fanatic, but then I realized how a film makes me happy. And I felt, what's the word? I felt cheated on. I felt cheated. So let me explain to you, as you have given me the liberty to do so. When they start a film, like most, let's take a Hindi film. Yeah, usually the same story, right? A few nuances, but usually it's a typical story. So at the beginning, they introduce you to a family that's very happy. There's a mother, there's a family, sometimes a big family like a Thakur who lives, very prosperous and wealthy Thakur. Maybe there's a young girl in the family and she's come of age, so her parents are looking for someone for her to get married to. And also there's going to be a boy somewhere, like quite handsome, good looking, right? And now when you see the two of them, you know that something's going to happen between them very soon, right? And then somehow life would have it, that fortune would have it, that the two of them would meet. Maybe at some ceremony at home or maybe in the village, right? Something happens and the two of them meet. That first glance, yeah, they see eye to eye, that first moment, and the director makes it clear to you that you know what's going on, that there's chemistry between the two of them, right? Now, when you see this, what do you want to happen between the two of them? What do you want for them to be? Together, right? Otherwise, why would you watch the movies? That's the story that you like to enjoy, right? You want them to be happy. Because, don't we want everyone to be happy? Wouldn't it be nice if everyone was happy? So that's what we want. So we want the boy and the girl to be happy. Now, of course, there's always a problem. Usually the father doesn't like. Because typically the boy is from a poor family. I think 90% of Hindi films, no disrespect to them at all. I used to enjoy Hindi films quite a lot myself, right? 90% of the time, that is what happens. Usually the father doesn't like or the mother doesn't like, or there's usually another party involved. So there's another boy who likes the same girl. So you have this equilateral triangle, right? There are songs written about it. You know them. Samakoni, Trikoni, so. Okay. So, there are three parties involved. There's a boy and the girl. You want them to be together, but there's this other factor that's keeping them from coming close to each other. So you want that factor to be taken out of, because, romance, isn't that nice? No. So romantic when the boy and girl meet, they should be together. In your mind, you've already thought about, what a lovely life they'll live together. And the beautiful children that they'll be making together. This beautiful boy, this beautiful girl. So, as the film moves on, as the story develops, there comes in the villain. So sometimes the villain is the father of the girl. Sometimes the villain is the village thug. Yeah. Sometimes it could be someone who wants to get money from them. Sometimes they just want to take the girl away, right? But there's a villain somehow. Now, when this villain comes into the picture, what do you want to happen to the villain? Do you want the villain to live happily ever after? No. See, what happened to your compassion there? Where's the loving kindness and compassion? The previous day you went to the temple and you offered flowers to the Buddha and did the Maitri Bhavana. Huh? But today you're watching this film and there's a villain and you don't want any good happen to you. You want the villain to be, sorted out. Sort him. Why doesn't someone come and sort him out? So as the story develops, right, now the two of them want to be together, this girl and the boy. In fact, they don't want to be together. They're just acting out a script because they get paid for it, right? But you want them to be together. So this is what the director's done in your mind. In fact, what he's done is, now we need to watch the movie and we need to do the examination of what's going on. Otherwise, this analysis is the important part, okay? What the director's done in your minds, ladies and gentlemen, is he or she has created what we call a vexation. The vexation of wanting something. This is why you enjoy a film. Okay? Now you want something. You want the two of them to be together. Even in the story, it's a story. But whilst you're watching the story, you sometimes forget that it's a story, don't you? That's why when they cry, yes, go on, don't be shy. When they cry, I cry. And when they're angry, I'm angry. I mean, a good director worth his salt should be able to do that. Like, they should make it lively for you. If you don't get to enjoy that, at the end of the story, what do you go? Oh, useless. They didn't even have a fight in it. There was no romance in it. There was nothing there to enjoy. What a waste of time. So a good director, that's why they win the Oscars, right? They make you believe that you are part of it. They make you believe that that's your daughter. They make you believe that that's your father, your mother. You are part of it. That's a good director. A good story writer should be able to do that. That is why they're artists and they get paid for that. So as the story develops, now there's the villain and you want the villain to be taken out of the picture because, of course, he or she is stopping the two people that you're very fond of from living together, coming together and living happily ever after, like they say in the fairy tales. So now what happens? Usually there's a fight. I mean, there's no end film without a fight, right? Usually there's a fight. So in the fight, what usually happens? And this is typical. So first of all, as the fight begins, right, the bad guy, he attacks the good guy. So the hero gets hit by the villain. And then, sometimes they give them a fist punch and then they go and land in the other part of the country, right? Right? And then somehow they come running back and then the fight continues. And here's what happens at one point. At one point, it seems like the good guy is going to win. Yeah? So the good guy gets the upper hand and then he beats the bad guy down and then it looks like it's all over. Right? But out of compassion, because he's such a good guy, even when he has the chance to give him a knockout punch, he doesn't do that. Right? In that last moment where, he's got the gun and he's got to shoot, he says, don't you ever try that again. And he throws the gun at the bad guy and he walks away, right? And you think, oh my God, he must be Mahatma Gandhi. Reincarnated. You begin to think. Because you've never seen such goodness in your life. He was about to be shot. But that guy who got hold of the gun without shooting the guy who was about to shoot him, he drops the gun on that man just by the side of the man and he walks away. And then, now how are you left? How does that leave you? Nervous. Because what do you know is going to happen next? Because they point the camera now at the bad guy and the gun. You know what's going to happen next, right? What's going to happen next? The bad guy is going to do what? He's going to grab the gun. Now, the good guy, he's got his back towards them and he's walking away. What do you want to do at that time? You want to shout out to the screen, don't you? Do you see the vexation working in your mind? I'm not just relating a story to you. I'm talking about what's happening to you at the same time. We have to analyze what's going on. Why is a movie fun to watch? Why is it entertaining? Why is it called entertainment? How do you enjoy a movie? This is how you do so. This is how you do. So when the good guy walks away, here's the hero, he's walking away with the girl with him now. He thinks that he saved the girl. The girl thinks that now they're safe. But the villain, he's got the gun next to him. He picks the gun up and he cocks it and he points it at the good guy. If you could shout out loud at that time, folks, you would shout out all the way to India. Because that's how much vexation has been built in your mind now. Because you want only good things to happen to the good people. You don't want bad things to happen to them because you love them. In that moment, they have become your family. They have become your friends. They have become part of your life. You want good only good to happen to them. So usually what will happen is before the guy pulls the trigger or pulls the gun, he will say, "Hey!" And then you wonder, I mean, what an idiot. I mean, if you want to shoot, you might as well just shoot. Right? Why are you saying, "I'm warning you, I'm going to shoot you"? It's all part of the script to keep you in suspense. The real life never works like that. You know, a shooter doesn't say, "Hello, I'm going to shoot you at the count of 3. 1, 2. It doesn't happen like that in real life. If you want someone dead, you want them dead now, not tomorrow. But the director knows that suspense is what keeps you on the edge of your seat and watching the film. Really, folks, the director's not directed the film. He's directing you, the viewer. He knows how to get a tear into your eye or out of your eye. He knows how to put a smile on your face. See, he calls the shots. Quite literally. He decides when you should be happy. He decides when you should be edged. He decides when you should be angry, when you should be anxious, when you should be nervous, when you should be delighted. He decides all that. The director does. Because the director knows how the mind works. Perhaps not in the way that the Buddha taught, but he understands that it is vexation that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat and glued to the film. And just before he pulls the trigger, they say what? Intermission. We'll be back after a short commercial break. How do you feel in that moment? Do you switch off the TV and walk away? Realistically? No. What do? You sit there waiting to be relieved of this suspense. That is the best time to show you the adverts. Because they know you will not get up and leave. See, if you don't understand how the mind works, ladies and gentlemen, you will get abused. This is exploitation. But legal exploitation. It's all legal. It's all good. No one's going to bat an eyelid. But I have a problem with that. Because I know what you are going through. I know that you are going through suffering at that time. You are going through vexation. And I have a problem with that. But it's all legal. This is legal exploitation. Again, I have nothing against the directors. This is not an insult or an attack to any of them. All I'm saying is, that is how the world works. And you are all guinea pigs until we understand the Dhamma. The truth is, it's not your choice what happens there. Because at that moment, you can't stand up and walk away. You have to be on your seat waiting to see what's going to happen next. So they show you all the adverts. Because they know you're going to watch it. So a few moments later, the adverts are now done and they're back to the film. So this is the, this is the peak moment. Like there's so much build-up of tension. You don't know what's going to happen now. Right? This is the climax of the film. You don't know what's going to happen next. So in that moment, sometimes perhaps maybe he pulls the trigger. Or just before he pulls the trigger, there's someone else there. He shoots the gun with his gun. I mean, their focus is so sharp that they can shoot a gun with a single bullet that's about 2 kilometers away. Only in a story. Never happens in real life. Otherwise, you'd have to get a trained sniper to be able to do that. But this is just a standard guy. He gets a gun out and shoots. And in that moment, how do you feel? You were edged. You were really nervous. How do you feel in the moment that you realize, thank God. It's a sigh of relief. Do you see how they take you on a roller coaster of emotions? Vexation and relief. Vexation and relief. Vexation and relief. This vexation is you wanting something to happen. So they build up this wanting in your mind and then they give it to you. Sometimes they make you feel that it's not going to happen. In those moments, your mind goes into a real sense, a real state of real, great anxiety and fear. What about horror films? Anyone here enjoys watching horror films? I mean, they do it best. In horror films, they do it best. Because as the door opens and you hear the creak, what do you expect next? What do you expect behind the door? A spooky ghost? Or shaitan? The devil? Suspense. And someone comes and touches your shoulder, gives you a fright. Oh, it's only my mother. See, I need you to observe what you are going through as you watch it. You are being directed. It's like, this is like a puppet show. It's all right to enjoy a puppet show as long as you are not the puppet. But when you watch a movie, are you not the puppet?
Thank you for joining us on The Art of Being Happy from Jethavanarama Buddhist Monastery. May today's wisdom bring you peace and joy in your daily life. We'd love to hear how these talks have touched your life. Share your experiences with us on +91 6361 803371. Until next time, may you find happiness in each present moment. Brought to you by Sanathana Vani, the voice eternal.